Hello to the fellow viewers who are watching this. We are from Group 36, and the team members of Group 36 is Ramas Chin, which is me, Syed Haris Widaan, Edwardson Bois, and Dini Batrisha. Basically, we had met up with Group 5 and Group 6 to discuss about the assignments that we have done in this semester. Shuhada had explained her part of assignment, whereas Elvis Sai has clearly explained about the assignment that he has done in this semester. So, the assignment topics that we are going to discuss in these presentations are structures and materials, issues of civil engineering related to geological, geotechnical, and transportation engineering in tropical climate. Thirdly, environmental engineering, and last but not least, water resources. We are going to start the presentation by explaining the subfields of engineering. Firstly, there is environmental engineering. Many people often ask, what is environmental engineering? Environmental engineering is the branch of engineering that is concerned with protecting people from the effects of adverse environmental effects, as well as improving environmental quality. Environmental engineers work to improve recycling, water disposal, public health, and water pollution control. Environmental engineering uses the principles of engineering, soil science, biology, and chemistry to develop solutions to environmental problems. As you can see in this picture, there are many types of pollution that is happening all around the world. One of the most important responsibilities of an environmental engineer is to prevent the release of harmful chemical and biological components into the air, water, and soil. Another important function performed by environmental engineers is detecting the presence of pollutants and tracking them back to their source. Once the environmental engineer identifies a source of contamination, it must be stopped or significantly reduced. That is all for environmental engineering. Thank you. Now, we are going to talk about environmental engineering assignment, water and electric consumption of my family, and how to save water and electricity. So, for the first question, we had to produce a trendline curve showing our family consumption for the year of 2021. Basically, there is 12 months in a year. We take water bill from each of the month, divided it by 30 days and the number of persons in our family. Then, we had to produce a graph that looks like this using Excel and Microsoft Word. Secondly, we had to determine how much water we use for shower, laundry, and cooking. This question had us critically thinking about how to save water. So, we had to do research on how to save water during shower, laundry, and cooking. Thirdly, we had to produce a trend line showing our family energy consumption for the year of 2021. Basically, it is similar as the one previous. We had to use 12 months of electric bill, divided it by 30 days and the number of persons in our family, thus producing a graph that looks like this. That is all from this assignment. Thank you. Now, I will pass to the next presenter.
I'm going to explain about transportation and geotechnical engineering. What is geotechnical engineering? Geotechnical engineering is the study of the behavior of soils under the influence of loading, forces, and soil-water interaction. And what are the importance of geotechnical engineering? The importance of geotechnical engineering is the knowledge is applied to the design of foundations, retaining walls, earth, dams, clay liners, and geosynthetics for waste containment. The goals of geotechnical engineers could range from the design of the foundation and temporary excavation support through route selection for railways and highways to the increasingly important areas of landfill, disposal of wastes, and groundwater contamination. As such, the geotechnical engineer is involved in field and laboratory investigations to determine the engineering properties of site, soils, and other geomaterials and their subsequent use in the analytical study of the problem at hand. Next, what is transportation engineering? Transportation engineering is a relatively new subject under the field of civil engineering and covers aspects of the highway engineering, traffic engineering, transportation and travelling in general. The importance of the transportation engineering has recently escalated as the daily demands of life in the modern and globalized world is being much and at times overly dependent on an efficient and safe transport system. It is now accepted that an efficient transport system promotes productivity, whilst a poor transport system hampers the economy. On the social aspect, transport is regarded as an essential ingredient to maintain one's satisfactory lifestyle. This is added by the fact that a gloomy side of transport is also a cause of concern, which is the transport environmental effect of travelling and transport in general. Next, the topic that we have discussed is geotechnical and transportation. This is the assignment that were given to us. It required us to discuss about issues of civil engineering related to geological, geotechnical and transportation engineering in tropical climate. So, I'm going to explain briefly regarding this assignment. The first issue is geological issues. Geological engineers should consider the physical nature and history of the earth before they start construct building in that place. The factor for a geological issue is natural disaster that occurs because of the tropical climate such as earthquakes, landslide, and flood. As a result, many properties were damaged, especially buildings. Next, geotechnical issues. Geotechnical is about things that deal with soil and rock behavior. Geotechnics is important to avoid buildings lean, settle and eventually collapse as earth below them shifts. There are two issues. The first one is ground composed of soil, soft soils or ground that has been historically filled can settle over time, creating issues with development. Development of a site changes the loading on the ground, altering the stress state and potentially compounding these issues that are not immediately visible without a detailed investigation. Ground stability. The climate and in particular unusually high rainfall can have a significant impact on the land over a longer period of time. Geotechnical principles can help plan for the longer term impact of different weather conditions. Last but not least, transportation issue. Transportation planning is necessary for civil engineering to ensure that these hazards and conditions are routinely set and appropriate to our tropical climate in order to minimize the occurrence of unwanted accidents. The tropical climate in Malaysia, where its condition is wet and dry year-round, disturbing the road structure, making the road structure easily got damaged by the erratic change of weather in Malaysia, causing the vehicle accident that took lives and also causing a traffic jam.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In this video, I will talk about one of the subfields in civil engineering, which is hydrology and hydraulics. Specifically, in terms of civil engineering, hydrology is the study about water movement nearby the construction site. First of all, we need to know about water cycle. It begins with rainfall that drops and produces water runoff to the watershed, which then evaporated to become cloud and produce rainfall again. Near the construction site, there will be a watershed that will contain water from rainfall. We need to know the behavior of the typical rainfall in terms of its duration, coverage, and also intensity. By knowing that, we get to know the flow rate of water that will be produced by rainfall. Any development activity at the construction site will change the flow of water on site. If it is left unmanaged, it can negatively affect the project site. Therefore, we need to study about hydrology to control the water movement to make sure it will not disrupt the project site. To ensure that, we need to design and operate a structure that will assist in controlling the water movement, and that is what we call as hydraulics. There are many ways to create hydraulic structures to control the water runoff. Some structures are designed to create a storage for the water or convey the water to another place through pipes and channels such as streams. by the information that we get from the study of water at that place, we can determine the size and depth that required for the conveyance. To create a well-performed hydraulic structure, we need to understand the water flow very well. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So for our assignment, we were given 5 questions about water-related system. So the first question is, one of the simple small action that will cause big environmental impact is throwing garbage or chemical waste into river or lake. Even if you throw waste in a small amount, imagine if every people do the same. It will cause massive water pollution. And the second question is, one of the human activity that could cause problem in watershed is contamination of river from the disposal of chemical waste from industrial building. This will lead to a condition called algae bloom. One of the suggestions is every industrial building must dispose their chemical waste in the proper way and not into the watershed. Responsible authorities must be aware of these problems and make sure every hazardous waste will not be disposed to the watershed. We proceed to the third question. So the major coastal forces are waves, currents, tides, winds, and also storms. Coastal physical features such as caves and cliffs were formed by these coastal forces. Waves that approach the coast will affect the shoreline and the cliffs. When the wave hits the shoreline and cliff repeatedly for a long period of time, it will cause erosion to the cliff and shift of the shoreline. When the shoreline is shifted, it will cause the sea level to rise significantly. Imagine if there is a building or house near the cliff, it could cause massive damage to the property. And we'll proceed to the next question. So the answer is, the first expertise that involved is the hydrologist, which will determine the dam requirement. We study the rainfall behavior, such as duration and intensity of the typical rainfall. So they managed to know the flow rate of water that would normally flow into the reservoir every year. Next, the civil engineers will create the dam design by using the obtained information to plan and design the overall layout of the dam and other structures at the site. Lastly, geotechnical engineers which will in charge in dam foundation. The geotechnical engineers will consider whether the rock or soil foundation is strong enough to support the weight of the dam. Will investigate the slope stability around the reservoir and determine if the location is perfect for dam construction. And for the last question is, first of all, do not throw domestic waste into lake or river, which will cause water pollution. We can send the waste to the responsible facility to dispose it in a proper manner. Second, avoid using pesticides and fertilizer with chemical substance that will pollute the soil. We need to start using natural fertilizer which is safer for the environment.
Summarize and unity of 4 assignments. From all the assignments that we have done, we can summarize that civil engineering is a field that requires so many subfields involved just to build or construct something. This is because Each subfield requires further studies, and most of their engineers are very expert and specialized in a field they work at, which the other sub-discipline might not be good at. Furthermore, civil engineers always work for a large-scale construction, which requires a very thorough calculation and planning for it to last more than 100 years. Even though there are so many problems and issues regarding the construction, the civil engineering from every field will always find ways to overcome those problems.